Vitamins are weird. We know that humans are completely dependent on the world around us, and if we don't breathe air constantly, drink food, and eat water regularly, then that's it. But you can be eating a diet where you're getting plenty of food and water, you're not going hungry or thirsty. But if you're not getting enough vitamin C, for example, then you can still end up with scurvy, a disease that pirates used to get. Arr! Other regular sailors were presumably also affected, but they don't have a fun accent that I can do. Unless you got to this video because a naughty kitten ran across your keyboard, you've probably seen that we're not talking about vitamin C today, we're talking about vitamin D. But what are vitamins? Simply put, vitamins are just things that the body needs to function that can't be made within the body. Vitamin D is not considered a true vitamin though, because it's made mostly within the body. It's called the sunshine vitamin because in your skin you have cells called the keratinocytes, which create a precursor molecule called 7-dehydrocholesterol. Don't know why I'm looking at my hand, it's not much help. But when the sunlight hits your skin, the ultraviolet B or UVB part of the light spectrum will hit that 7-DHC molecule and turn it into pre-vitamin D3. Pre-vitamin D3 is unstable, and so it rearranges itself over time into vitamin D3. This is kind of like how you don't make toast directly. You make a dough, that's the 7-DHC. The sun then bakes that into a loaf of bread, that's your pre-vitamin D3. You then cut up the bread and toast it, and that's your vitamin D3. So depending on where you live in the world, you probably need about an hour's exposure to the sun each day in order for your body to make enough vitamin D. But what if you live in somewhere like the UK, where winter seems to last about half the year? When we're all hiding inside because the weather won't stop being so bloody unreasonable, we still need enough vitamin D, because without it you can get aches and pains, fatigue, and if it goes on long enough then you can get things like reduced bone density, among other not great side effects. So you'll need to supplement your vitamin D and get it from another source, but where? Obviously the answer is sheep, specifically sheep's wool. You might be thinking that this is absolutely wild, that most of the vitamin D supplements that you might buy on shelves are washed out of sheep gunk, and you'd be right, it is weird. You probably expected that there would be some kind of plant that we could get it from, but plants don't make vitamin D3, they make vitamin D2. Fungi, like mushrooms, can make a lot of vitamin D2 when they're exposed to UV light. D2 works in humans, but it's not as effective at raising your vitamin D levels as vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is the animal-associated form because it's made from cholesterol, which is something that animals are really good at making. Cholesterol is extremely important to us, especially in the brain and spinal cord, which plants famously refuse to have. Some furry animals, like cats and dogs, don't make enough of their own vitamin D, and therefore they have to have it as a dietary supplement. So if you see your cat sunning itself, it's not doing that to generate D3, it's just doing it because it loves to sunbathe. Some other furry animals do create their own vitamin D, like sheep, who produce a grease that helps waterproof their wool called lanolin, and that contains vitamin D3. But the sheep don't just create vitamin D and then dump it into their wool, they create lanolin, and that contains 7-DHC, the same molecule that we produce in our skin that gets turned into vitamin D3. The 7-DHC in the wool, in the presence of the sun, is turned into vitamin D3. It's washed out of the wool with a detergent and then spun in a centrifuge or mixed with a solvent to extract it. But if you're a vegan, then getting vitamins from sheep isn't, and a lot of the foods that are really high in vitamin D, eggs, fish and red meat, are all super not vegan. So if you're a vegan, where do you get your supplemental D? Yeah, you could just go for a walk, walking is vegan, but there's something even cooler. Let me tell you about lichens. Lichens are those spreading spots that you see on trees and rocks. They're composite organisms, which means that they are a colony of fungus and something that can photosynthesize usually an algae or a cyanobacteria, and they live together symbiotically. The fungal partner provides the structure shielding the other partner from the elements, and the other partner provides nutrients and photosynthesis, and some lichen, when exposed to UVB, produce vitamin D3 from an entirely animal-free route. How it's extracted is very cool. First, the lichen are harvested, then ground down into a powder with a mortar and pestle or some kind of grinding machine. Then that powder is loaded into a pressure vessel and closed. Then liquid CO2 is pumped into that vessel until it hits about 300 times the amount of pressure that we're experiencing right now. Then it's heated to about 50 to 60 degrees C. The CO2 wants to expand as it's hot enough to become a gas, but in the pressure vessel there's no space to do that, so it becomes supercritical. In this state, the CO2 acts like a solvent, allowing the vitamin D to dissolve into it. Then the CO2 flows into a lower pressure separator that allows it to become a gas again, which leaves the vitamin D extracted purely. So those cool spots that you see spreading across the face of trees and rocks might actually be a good source of vitamin D, but side note, please don't lick trees and rocks because you might get some vitamin D, you might get something pretty nasty as well. Using a pressure vessel and supercritical CO2 to extract vitamin D from lichen might sound like a really wacky science way of doing it, and it is, but it's only as wacky as the way they make decaf coffee because they do it the same way. And as a result, I imagine that all of the infrastructure for extracting things with supercritical CO2 pretty much already exists. And so as people continue to buy this newer, slightly cleaner way of producing D3, it will eventually become cheaper than squeezing a sheep. Which is not really an accurate way of describing it, but come on, you're kind of squeezing a sheep. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope this was as interesting to you as it was to me. If there's another weird science thing out there that I don't know yet about, please leave it in the comments so that I can find all about it and make another video on whatever it is. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to see whatever it is I dig up next. Thanks very much. See you in the next one.